The wind had stopped, but the snow didn't. It fell in a thick, choking silence, muffling the world outside. Streetlights flickered intermittently, throwing long, trembling shadows across the frozen pavement. From somewhere down the lane came a single, sharp jingle, a bell, too high, too clear. It echoed like a warning. Mara pulled her coat tighter around her, breath fogging the frosted glass as she peered through the window of the small, dimly lit living room. The Christmas tree lights blinked unevenly, each pulse casting long fingers of shadow across the walls. Nothing moved, or so she thought, until a shadow crossed the frosted glass, too tall, too human-shaped to belong outside. Her phone buzzed on the counter, though she hadn't felt it in her pocket. A message. Don't look outside. Her heart thumped, a deafening rhythm in the quiet. She wanted to tell herself it was a joke. Maybe some prankster wandering the empty streets. But the footprints in the snow told another story. They started at the edge of her yard and ended abruptly at the front door. No one had come in. No one had left. A creak echoed behind her. The front door, locked hours ago, shifted slightly. Slowly. Inward. Mara froze, unable to breathe, unable to move. Her reflection in the glass stared back. Hers but twisted. Eyes wider. Mouth trembling. And then she heard it, a whisper not from outside but inside the room. Welcome home. The lights flickered again, and Mara realized she was no longer alone. Mara's hands shook as she stepped closer to the window, trying to convince herself the shadow was a trick of the light. Outside, the street seemed unnaturally empty, snow covering footprints except those that led to her door. Her footprints and no one else's. Yet the memory of the whispered words lingered, curling in her chest. Welcome home. The living room felt colder than it should have. Her eyes scanned the ornaments on the Christmas tree, their glittering surfaces reflecting a fractured version of her own panic. One of the glass baubles spun slowly, as if caught in a wind that didn't exist. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and it stopped. Just like that. Silence reclaimed the room, thick and suffocating. She remembered the carolers who had passed her house earlier that evening. Their voices had been cheerful, bright against the white hush of snow. But now that joy felt distant, a memory from another world. The warmth from the small fireplace seemed feeble, barely warding off the creeping dread. Even the crackle of burning logs felt like a whisper, like something was listening. A soft tap came from the hallway. She froze. Another. Then a low creak, like someone shifting weight slowly across the wooden floor. Is anyone there? She called, her voice shaking. The sound felt hollow, swallowed instantly by the house. No answer, only the echo of her own fear. Mara's eyes darted to the front door. Locked, bolted, impossible to open from the outside. And yet, the faintest gap between door and frame caught her eye, almost imperceptible, as though something had nudged it. She swallowed hard. A warning, one her instincts screamed at her to heed, but curiosity rooted her in place. The phone buzzed again. Another message, a single line. You shouldn't be alone. Her mind raced. She had been alone all evening. She had locked the doors. She had checked every window. And yet, the room felt different, shifted somehow while she wasn't looking. Shadows pooled unnaturally in corners. A photo on the wall tilted slightly, the image of her family grinning at last Christmas now crooked, distorted, unfamiliar. Footsteps, or were they echoes of her own? Crossed the hallway again. She grabbed the nearest object, a heavy candle holder, clutching it like a lifeline. Another whisper brushed her ear, softer this time, urgent. Look behind you. Her breath caught. Slowly, trembling, she turned. The reflection in the glass of the hallway mirror was hers. But not. Eyes wider than her own, face pale and drawn, a lip curling into a smile she had never seen. Her stomach turned as the reflection lifted a hand. Slowly. Deliberately. Who's there? She whispered, barely audible. No reply came, only the soft creak of the floorboards inching closer. The snow outside began falling harder, muffling all other sound. Yet through the windows, Mara could see movement, shadows shifting in impossible ways. Something outside, something inside, or perhaps neither. The line between what was real and what was imagined blurred, and with it, her sense of safety dissolved entirely. She wanted to scream, to call for help, but her voice caught, swallowed by a growing, inescapable silence. Every instinct urged her to flee, but the door, locked, impossible to breach, remained in front of her like a barrier between her and the unknown. And then, faintly, almost imperceptibly, she heard it. The faint jingling of bells, soft but deliberate, coming from somewhere deep within the house. Her pulse hammered. "Who's there?" she demanded again, voice cracking. No answer. Only the faint jingling moving closer. Slowly. Inevitably. Mara stumbled back toward the couch, pressing herself against the cushions. A sudden chill ran down her spine as she realized something impossible. The ornaments on the tree were spinning again. Faster this time, faster than any breeze could account for. The lights flickered violently, and in the brief darkness, she thought she saw a figure standing in the corner. Tall, impossibly still, watching. Then silence. Her heart continued to race, her mind straining for explanation. And yet, she knew, deep down, that what was coming would not wait for understanding. Something had arrived in her home, in her life, on this Christmas Eve, and it was patient. Watching. Hungry. The lights stuttered once more, casting long shadows that seemed to reach toward her. She could no longer tell if the snow outside reflected the street or something darker. Something moved, almost imperceptibly, shifting from shadow to shadow, approaching. And Mara, for the first time, understood the truth she had been avoiding. The horror was not outside. It had been inside all along. Mara sank to the floor, pressing her back against the couch, eyes locked on the tree. The spinning ornaments had stopped, but the air felt heavy, as though the house itself was breathing. A faint whisper came again, almost a hiss. "You can't hide." Her mind raced, searching for logic, for reason. She tried to recall the day's events. The street had been empty, save for a few early shoppers. A neighbor had waved from across the snowy lane, but their smile had felt strained, forced. Now she understood why. That unease had followed her home, invisible yet palpable. She remembered a story her grandmother once told years ago about a Christmas Eve long ago, when a neighbor vanished from the same street, leaving only footprints that led to the door and ended there. At the time, it had seemed like a ghost story, a tale meant to scare children. Now it felt like a warning. The phone buzzed again, lighting up the darkroom. This time, a video. She hesitated, fingers trembling, then tapped the screen. The footage showed the living room, her living room, but empty. For a moment she exhaled, relief softening the terror. Then the camera shifted, capturing her own reflection in the hallway mirror. She froze as the figure behind her, a perfect copy, smiled, just as it had moments ago. Her thoughts scattered. The rational part of her mind screamed that this was impossible. But every sense screamed otherwise. She heard it again, a creak, closer this time. Something moved upstairs, in the attic she had never entered. Slowly, deliberately. A floorboard groaned, then another, footsteps echoing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Mara's eyes darted to the hallway. Shadows pooled, thick and heavy, crawling along the walls. She wanted to call out to demand it stop, but her voice failed her. The air itself seemed to press against her chest, making breathing difficult. Then a memory surfaced, jarring and vivid. A diary she had found in the attic last summer. It belonged to the house's previous owner, a man named Elias Winters, who had disappeared one Christmas Eve decades ago. His last entry, written in trembling ink, read, "The snow watches. The bells follow. If you see the shadow, do not respond. It does not forgive curiosity." A chill ran through Mara. The house she had grown up in, the place she thought was safe, was layered with history she hadn't understood. Stories of disappearances, of whispers, of objects moving on their own, all ignored, forgotten until now. And yet, nothing in the diary explained the immediate terror. The jingling, the reflections, the shadows that moved as though alive. She tried to steady her breathing. Logic, she told herself. It must be logic. Perhaps the storm outside had caused the lights to flicker. Perhaps the old floors were creaking under the weight of snow. Perhaps. But even as she thought it, the whispers grew louder. Not outside, not distant, but inside her mind, threading through her thoughts. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be alone. Her phone vibrated again, this time with a call from an unknown number. She stared at it, dread pooling in her stomach. Against every instinct, she answered. Hello. Her voice was trembling. A pause. Then a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Look in the attic. The line went dead. Mara dropped the phone, heart hammering. The whisper had been different. Closer, intimate, as if it had come from inside the room. She dared not move at first, fear rooting her to the couch. Then, curiosity, reckless and unavoidable, began to stir. The stairs to the attic were narrow, steep, and Mara knew each creak by memory. Yet tonight, every step groaned as if alive, warning her back. The attic door loomed ahead, shadowed and dark. Something whispered again, almost laughing. It's waiting. Her hands shook as she reached for the doorknob. A sudden cold breeze pressed against her face, though every window and door in the house remained closed. She twisted the knob slowly, half expecting it to resist her, but it turned with ease. The attic was a mess of old boxes, forgotten furniture, dust motes dancing in the weak light from a single bulb. For a moment she saw nothing. Then movement, subtle and deliberate. A rocking chair shifted slightly, though no wind touched it. A pile of old Christmas ornaments tumbled silently to the floor, glittering in the dim light. Mara's eyes were drawn to a small, ornate music box sitting on a shelf. She recognized it immediately. It had belonged to her childhood friend, missing for years, last seen on a Christmas Eve similar to this one. The lid was closed, yet a faint melody played, soft, discordant, familiar yet wrong. She picked it up. The melody grew louder, filling the attic, vibrating through her chest. And then, impossibly, the lid opened on its own. Inside, a tiny mirror reflected not her face, but a pale, grinning figure standing just behind her. She spun around, heart racing. Nothing. Silence. The attic seemed to breathe, the shadows shifting, corners stretching unnaturally. Mara backed away, eyes wide, noticing scratches on the walls. Names, dates, warning messages left over decades. Some faded, some fresh. Do not open. It watches. It waits. A sudden crash below made her jump. Something had fallen, a box, a chair, or perhaps something more sinister. The jingling began again, faster, echoing from the living room. Something was moving, unseen but inevitable. Mara wanted to flee, but every instinct told her she was trapped, the house itself a cage, each shadow a sentinel. She remembered the diary again, Elias Winter's final words. If you see the shadow, Mara understood now. The shadow was not a trick of light. It was sentient, patient, feeding on fear, and it had chosen this night to reveal itself. Footsteps echoed from the hall outside the attic. She knew she wasn't imagining it. Something, or someone, was coming up the stairs. The air thickened, suffocating, carrying the faint metallic scent of something old and wrong. Mara grabbed a heavy box, swinging it instinctively as the door creaked open. A figure slipped inside, impossibly fast, yet indistinct, shrouded in darkness. She screamed, but the sound felt swallowed by the house. Then, a whisper directly in her ear, icy and intimate. You shouldn't have come. The attic light flickered violently, shadows dancing like living things. Mara's knees buckled, and she fell back against the wall. The figure advanced, yet always remaining partially hidden, partially imagined. She felt her mind fray, reality bending. The house shifted subtly around her, as if walls moved when she blinked. In the hallway below, the jingling of bells grew deafening, each note striking her chest with unbearable clarity. A mirror in the corner reflected the living room, but she didn't see herself, only the empty space where she had been moments ago, and another figure standing in her place, grinning, waiting. Mara understood fully now. She could not escape. The house was alive with history, with terror, with shadows that remembered every Christmas Eve. And it had chosen her to witness its culmination. Her reflection in the attic mirror shivered. Lips moved, whispering a name she did not recognize. And Mara realized with bone-deep horror that whatever she was facing had been here far longer than she had imagined, waiting for this exact night, this exact moment for her. The snow outside intensified, muffling all sound except the music box's distorted melody, the creaking of the attic stairs, and the faintest, most insidious whisper. "It's time." Mara's breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed herself against the attic wall. The shadows moved with a life of their own, stretching unnaturally along the floorboards. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but she knew the stairs behind her would not grant escape. The house had already decided she could not leave. The music box's melody became sharper, discordant, almost screaming in her ears. She flinched, covering her ears, but the sound penetrated anyway, vibrating through her skull. And then the whisper came again, louder, now from every direction. "Do not fight it. Do not look away." Mara's eyes darted across the attic. The rocking chair, once inert, was now moving violently, back and forth, faster and faster, as if pushed by unseen hands. Boxes toppled around her, the contents spilling in chaotic heaps. Broken ornaments, yellowed letters, old photographs, all shifting as though alive. She tried to scream. Her voice cracked, but it was swallowed instantly by the oppressive silence of the house. Then, from the shadowed corner, she saw it. Not fully formed, yet unmistakable. A figure tall and thin, its outline flickering like smoke. The face was human, then not. It grinned, impossibly wide, eyes glinting with cruel amusement. "You shouldn't have come," it hissed, the voice a mixture of all the whispers she had heard that night, all layered and impossible to pinpoint. Mara stumbled backward, tripping over a box. The entity moved closer, sliding through the shadows with an unnatural grace. The attic light flickered, and each time it blinked, the figure was nearer. Her reflection in the attic mirror no longer mirrored her. Instead, it grinned back with malevolent intent, lips moving in mockery. "Welcome home." She grabbed a heavy chair, swinging it at the figure, but it passed through as if it were smoke, and then the chair shattered against the wall behind. The shards glinted sharply, yet did not distract the entity, which hovered silently, patient, and infinitely cruel. The music box stopped suddenly. Silence crashed over the attic, suffocating. Mara realized with bone-deep terror that she could hear her own heartbeat. But beneath it, faint, almost imperceptible, was another rhythm. Footsteps descending the stairs. Slow, deliberate, echoing through the house like a warning. Mara's hands shook. She ran to the attic door, but it slammed shut before she could reach it. She pounded on it, screaming, but the sound felt swallowed by the walls. And then the floor beneath her feet shifted, groaning as though the house itself were bending around her, constricting. She was trapped, surrounded, isolated. The figure advanced, folding shadows into itself. A voice whispered directly in her ear, icy, intimate. "You belong to us." Mara screamed, spinning, striking the air wildly. Yet the figure remained, always a step behind, always smiling, always patient. Memories flashed through her mind. The diary of Elias Winters, the missing neighbor, the footprints in the snow that ended at her door. Each memory burned into her consciousness, an unbroken chain of inevitability. She understood now that the house, the shadows, the entity, they had been waiting for her, orchestrating this moment for decades, perhaps centuries. A sudden noise below made her whip around. The ceiling above, the attic walls, and the floorboards all pulsed as if alive. Objects lifted slowly from the ground. Ornaments, books, dust swirling violently in the air. Mara stumbled backward, retreating toward the corner. The figure reached toward her, its hand elongated, distorted, stretching impossibly far. "You cannot escape," it whispered. Its voice seemed to echo in her skull, vibrating through her bones. "It is Christmas Eve. You are ours." Mara's mind teetered on the edge of sanity. She had never felt such terror, such overwhelming, inevitable doom. She realized the shadows were not bound to the attic. They were everywhere, creeping along the walls of the house, pooling in the corners, reaching through the mirrors, infiltrating every reflection, every surface. The house itself had become a living trap, a predator. Desperate, she grabbed a shard of broken ornament from the floor and hurled it at the entity. It passed harmlessly through. The figure advanced again, patient, unhurried, unstoppable. Mara's reflection moved independently, stepping closer, lips curling in anticipation. Then, suddenly, the lights went out. The attic plunged into complete darkness, and Mara felt the figure brush against her shoulder. She screamed, clawing at the air. The whisper returned, this time directly inside her mind. "It's over. There is no running. You have always been ours." Her vision swam. She blinked, and the attic seemed to stretch, elongate, bending around her. The stairs twisted. The ceiling rose impossibly high. She tried to move but felt as though her body were being pulled in every direction at once. The shadows consumed the corners, then the middle of the room, then the space around her. And then she saw them. Figures in the corners, barely human, faces pale and hollow, watching. Their mouths moved soundlessly, lips forming the words, "Join us." Mara's stomach turned. She realized they were not alive in the traditional sense, yet neither dead. Something else entirely. Entities born of the house, nourished by fear, drawn to Christmas Eve. A single candle, untouched, flickered into life on the floor. Its flame revealed the entity fully. Tall, impossibly thin, grin stretching beyond reason, eyes reflecting centuries of collected terror. Its hand reached toward her. The floorboards beneath her cracked, splitting as if opening to swallow her whole. Mara screamed again, a final, desperate sound, but it did not matter. The figure touched her shoulder, and she felt a coldness that pierced bone and mind alike. Her reflection mirrored her horror, then shifted independently, smiling, stepping forward to replace her in the physical world. The shadows surged. Walls twisted. Time warped. The music box began to play again, slower, more distorted, the melody scraping against her sanity. Her voice faltered. Her body felt unreal, like a marionette whose strings had been cut. And then, as quickly as it began, the movement stopped. Mara's eyes fell on the mirror. Her reflection smiled, perfectly calm, eyes empty, lips curling in a way she had never seen before. The figure was gone, or had it become her? She could not tell. The snow outside continued to fall, soft and silent. The street lights flickered. Inside Mara, or something in her place, stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth trembling, trapped between what was real and what the house demanded her to become. A whisper came from the mirror. "Next year, you will return. We will be waiting." Mara's scream dissolved into silence, and the house exhaled. Shadows pooled in the corners, leaving only the faint, distorted glow of the Christmas tree lights. The attic, once alive with impossible movement, was still again. Only the faint sound of a bell, slow and deliberate, warned that the horror had not left. It had merely paused, patient, eternal, inevitable. The snow had stopped. Outside, the world was silent, untouched, deceptively peaceful. Streetlights glimmered weakly through the thin layer of frost on the windows. The house, once alive with impossible movement and whispers, now seemed inert. Mara, or what had been Mara, stood in the attic, perfectly still, facing the mirror. Her reflection no longer moved independently. Or perhaps it did, and she simply could no longer tell the difference. The music box sat on the floor, its distorted melody quiet now. Yet something about it hummed in the air, a low vibration that resonated with the bones. The ornaments that had once spun and danced now rested, glittering innocently, hiding their malevolence behind the pretense of holiday cheer. Her body, or the body that had once belonged to her, felt heavy as if the house itself pressed against her from all sides. The shadows in the corners seemed to recede, but they lingered in the edges of her vision, just out of reach, waiting. The attic ceiling, once impossibly stretched and warped, now looked normal. Yet she knew better. She could feel the house breathing, pulsing with patience, as if it had simply paused, content with the outcome. Mara's mind, frayed and fragmented, tried to grasp reality. Memories of her childhood, of Christmases past, of family gatherings, all felt distant, like dreams from someone else's life. She thought of the diary of Elias Winters, of the neighbors whose eyes had seemed to know too much, of the messages she had received on her phone. Each memory was a thread in a tapestry of inevitability that had led her here, and yet she had no words, no ability to express it. A faint noise drew her attention, a soft creak from the hallway below. She tried to move, but her legs would not obey. The attic door, once so threatening, now seemed normal, closed and locked as if nothing had happened. Yet she knew the truth. She could never leave. The house had claimed her in ways that defied reason, space, and time. Footsteps echoed faintly, distant yet unmistakable. She knew they weren't hers. They were deliberate, measured, and yet absent of malice. Or perhaps it was a malice she could no longer recognize. The house hummed quietly in response, a low, throbbing vibration that resonated through the walls, through her bones. In the living room, the Christmas tree lights flickered once, twice, and then went out. Darkness claimed the space, but the faintest glimmer remained on the ornaments, reflecting something inhuman. Shadows shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, and Mara's mind instinctively reached for an explanation. None came. None could. A whisper came, not close, not intimate this time, but distant, as if carried through the walls themselves. Next year, we will be waiting. Her chest tightened, a cold, inexorable dread settling deep in her core. She realized that this was not the end, nor was it merely a pause. It was a promise. The house had always been patient. The shadows had always waited. And she, what she had become, was now a part of that cycle. Her reflection in the attic mirror tilted its head slightly, almost inquisitive. For a moment, she thought it might be communicating, offering some shred of hope, some hint of recognition. But the eyes were empty, the smile still too wide, too knowing. The being she had faced that night had not left. It had simply woven itself into her, into the walls, into the house itself. The snow outside began again, soft and delicate, blanketing the world in deceptive calm. Footprints appeared in the fresh layer, but they led to the house and stopped abruptly at the door. No one had entered, and yet someone or something had been there. A neighbor would later swear they saw figures behind the curtains, moving unnaturally. But when they approached, the house appeared empty, ordinary, silent. Inside, Mara, if that was still her, sat down on the floor, staring at the music box. It had not played, yet the faint vibration persisted. The shadows lingered in the corners, and she could feel them watching, waiting for the next Christmas Eve, for the next visitor, for the next soul to claim. She tried to speak, to warn herself, to warn anyone, but her voice was swallowed by the silence. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes or days. Time no longer mattered. The house measured time differently now, bending perception, elongating moments into infinity. Mara's thoughts circled endlessly, fragments of fear, panic, and fragmented memories colliding in a hopeless loop. She realized with bone-deep clarity that she would never escape this place, nor the presence that had claimed her. The door to the attic creaked. She did not look. She could feel the house shifting again, a subtle vibration underfoot, an acknowledgement of her presence. She understood instinctively that she was now a part of its machinery, a node in the endless cycle of terror. The house did not destroy, it incorporated, absorbed, and preserved. Outside, the first rays of dawn glimmered weakly on the snow, offering the world a promise of normalcy. But inside, Mara, or what she had become, remained, frozen and silent. The music box hummed faintly, ornaments glimmered in the dim light, and the shadows watched patiently. The whispers would return tonight, again, and every Christmas Eve thereafter. A single final note of the music box vibrated in the air, almost inaudible. Mara's reflection in the mirror leaned forward slightly, lips parting in a smile that was hers, but not hers. Then silence. The world outside awoke to Christmas morning, bright and serene. Cars passed slowly on the snow-covered streets. Children played unaware. Neighbors smiled, pretending all was normal. But the house remained still, patient, waiting. And Mara, trapped in the eternal echo of fear, knew that no matter how bright the day, no matter how festive the world outside, she would never leave. And in the attic, the shadows stirred faintly, as if amused. The house exhaled. The music box began again. And somewhere, deep in the corners of the walls, the whispers whispered, "Next year, we will return. And so will you." The snow melted outside. Footprints remained. Leading nowhere. Leading everywhere.